Welcome back to this introduction to SketchUp. Now we're going to pick it up where we left off in the previous video, where we're now going to set up a series of standard views that we will refer to perhaps and use in our final report. Now if you notice on the right hand side tray, there's one of the pull down tabs which is a scene. Now what we can do is, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to get a standard view. We'll get a top view and I'll set that to a parallel projection, so it's a pure plan view. And what I'll do is I'm going to add that as a scene. And what you'll see is that it gives a little panel through here and also a little tab at the top, so you can very quickly toggle through different scenes. So I'm going to now just set the camera to the front view, and I'm going to set that as another scene. And now I'm just going to drop the camera back to a perspective view. Oops, sorry. And just start to orbit around here. Sort of bring people on a bit of a tour of this project. Bring it around to there. Bring it around to the back. Bring it around to this side. And around to that side as well. So we've got a whole series of standard scenes that we can very quickly then just navigate between. So as we're developing our model, we can see, well, actually maybe I'll need to sort of do more work on this side. And in this instance you can see that I've gone all the way around the building, but that's not always the case. It depends on sort of what you want your report to do. Now SketchUp has a really cool animation tool, and using the animation to sort of give a fly through for a client presentation is a really great way for the client to get into the project. It's always very well received, and a lot of clients find it very difficult to read sort of plans and orthographic drawings. Now it is super easy to make an animation in SketchUp. And what we want to do is, from the File pull down menu, we go Export, and we're going to go Animation. Oops, come here, Export, Animation, Video. So what it will do, we'll go back to the desktop and we'll just sort of dump it on there. And what it will simply is create a series of it will create one animation which will fly between these keyframe scenes that we have created previously. So if we just pull up the options through here, we can make a smoother or more sort of rougher animation. It defaults to 24, which is a pretty good sort of frame rate. And we'll click the anti-aliasing so that it does multiple passes of each scene, so that the lines are nice and smooth. And if we just go OK, once we've checked those options, we've got the file name, we know where it's going to go, and if we go Export, it will actually go through and begin rendering up that animation. Okay, so we've almost finished that up, so no problems that we can see. Just going to minimize this and see, there's the sample house there, and there you can see the simple animation that it creates. Now as you create the animation and views, you do need to be cognizant of what's in and out of the views. We can turn those section planes on and off. I haven't been very careful with how I've set this up, but you'll get the hang of it, and the process is super easy to do. So I'll just close that and I'll come back to the sample house. Now I'm going to sort of bring you through the process of geolocating the project. So I'm just going to get rid of these section planes because they're starting to annoy me a bit. Now, to do a solar study is so important in the early stages of a project because we make assumptions as to sort of, how effective our buildings perform in terms of light coming in and out of windows that we think, views between, and also one building overshadowing another. And that may sort of give us some advice on how tall to make buildings, whether to flatten roofs and so on. But it needs to be accurate. So SketchUp allows you to geolocate your project to an exact place in the world. So in this instance, we just go to the File pull-down menu, go to Geolocation, and just add a location through there. And what it will do is it will pull up a map interface from Google Earth, and we'll find the place that we are going to. So in this instance, we'll try and find the Richlands area, which I understand in this instance is your project site. And we'll zoom in on a place through here. So once we've orientated to approximately where we are, we're going to select a region, and you can edit this, you can shrink it and increase it and so on, and then we're just going to grab it. So you can see at the end of that, what it's done is that it's pulled through the terrain that we've grabbed from Google Earth, and we can reposition our house within that scene, moving it across here. And I'm not going to sort of fret too much about aligning it with a particular site, but one thing that I have noticed is that the accuracy of the scale of the grabbed terrain is reasonably accurate in plan. Now you'll notice as well that it's brought through two new layers. Now one is the terrain and one is the snapshot. Now I'm going to turn off the snapshot so we can focus on the terrain, and what you can see through there is it's pulling through the height data that's in Google Earth, and the height data is a little bit sketchy at times, but it really does give a good indication of the general sort of fall of the land, but it's not what we would call maybe survey accurate. But I'm going to get rid of that location terrain just so I'm not confused between the snapshot and the terrain. But I can't sort of get rid of it at the moment, because if you notice, if I select that, the perimeter of that object is red, which means that it's locked. So I've got to right click again on that object, unlock it, turns blue, and then I can delete it. And then I'm going to turn back on my location snapshot, and I'm just going to operate on a sort of a two-dimensional plane. Now the shadows and so on that will be generated now will be locationally accurate, and we control that through this panel through here. Now in order to actually visualize the shadows, by default the shadows are turned off, and so under the View tab you need to check the box next to Shadows. Now the reason that shadows are turned off is because it really does slow down the modeling if you've got shadows turned on all the time. It's best to keep the shadows off unless you're actually wanting to do a visualization or a study. So I'm going to click that on there, and there you can see the shadows are now projected from our building. And the interface is quite straightforward. You can see here there's the time of day, so from morning to the afternoon, and here we have the months. So we can get a fairly fine-grained analysis of our building. So through here we can see that in the morning, say at 8 o'clock on a summer, The overhangs are sort of helping us by and large on most of the project, but this side through here is getting absolutely hammered with sun, and the overhang's actually not doing very much at all, and we're not getting very much overshadowing from the building next door. So that sort of allows us, as we build the sort of complexity of our model and put some sun hoods and different overhangs, we can begin to exclude some from important parts of the building when we don't want the sun in, and conversely in wintertime, perhaps when we want sun to come in. Say here we go in July, August, when it's cold, and so here we're in the morning and we've got these two lovely courtyards through here that are kind of, they're fairly exposed to the west, and also they're getting no sun in the morning. So what I'm actually going to do is I'll just select those two, so shift to get both of them, and I can flip that building around. So if I go right click, get the context menu up, I can flip that object around, and there you can see now in the winter time we're now starting to get a nice sun trap into that building, but at the same time we are overshadowing our neighbour quite a bit. But perhaps if we just check through there, so it's not too bad then in this sort of sun trapped little courtyard, because the degree of overshadowing is quite slight. But I guess we can then start to adjust the offset and so on to get optimum sort of sun in that little courtyard for that winter time. So you need to be clear on what your constraints are in terms of when to get sun in and when not to get sun in. But SketchUp has got a very sort of set of simple but powerful tools to allow you to visualize and make changes and adjustments to your design on the fly very quickly. So it's a great sort of feature in SketchUp that's super important during the design stage. So I'm just going to leave it there again. There's another video following this where we'll start to look at some of the export options in SketchUp Pro, so you can get some of the model information in a format that you can use in your document.